We will show you a video. I don't know if you are aware of what the International Telecommunications Union does, but the International Telecommunications Union is the branch of the United Nations that takes care of communications. And for more than 150 years, had the Secretary General that has been a man. This is the first time that we have a chairwoman. That is, Doreen has been around in the school for many years with us, and she sent us greetings or a video. It's going to be screened in English, but you have the subtitles into Spanish, and I'm sure the translators can do it into Spanish. Can you do the video, please? Thank you.
Greetings to all distinguished South School delegates, and thank you for inviting me to deliver the keynote for the 14th session of this important annual program. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Doreen Bogdan Martin, and right now I serve as the Director of Telecommunications Development at the International Telecommunications Union, the UN Specialized Agency for Digital Technologies based in Geneva, Switzerland. If you're unfamiliar with our work, I'm proud to tell you that the ITU has been leading the global development of communication technologies for almost 160 years, from the invention of the first international telegraph network to the advent of the telephone, telex, communication satellites, fax machines, network computers, mobile phones, and of course, most recently, the internet. I'm also pleased by the strong relationship that we've built with the South School over the years, and I'm encouraged by your engagement with so many of the pressing regulatory issues that will be so important to nurturing a strong, resilient digital sector. Congratulations also to the school on being the proud recipient of a prestigious WSIS Prize earlier this year. That's an achievement that testifies to the quality of its program and the relevance of its work. My own role as ITU's Director of Telecommunications Development is dedicated to finding ways to bring the transformational power of digital technology to people everywhere, with a focus on the world's most poorly served communities. It's a challenge that assumed a new urgency during my 4-year tenure in this role, because the COVID pandemic put the spotlight on what digital exclusion really looks like in today's interconnected world. If you've heard it said that the digital divide is emerging as the new face of global inequality, that's because access to digital networks is no longer just the means and ability to speak to someone or to send a text. It now means access to employment, access to learning, access to commercial opportunities, to banking, to a growing host of essential government services, to healthcare, to social interaction and entertainment, and to the store of the whole world's accumulated knowledge. In short, connectivity means opportunity. And yet the latest ITU figures show that 2.7 billion people are currently cut off from that life-changing opportunity. That's 2.7 billion people who have never, ever used the internet. Or, put another way, 1/3 of humanity totally excluded from the digital opportunities that those in the world's wealthy nations now take for granted. And the problem doesn't stop there. ITU data indicates that hundreds of millions more struggle with costly, poor quality, hard to access connections that do little or nothing to help them improve their lives. Those who lack ready access are overwhelmingly those already marginalized. That means women, elderly people, and those with disabilities, indigenous groups, and those who live in poor, remote, or rural areas. And if we don't work harder and faster to reverse this picture, we risk duplicating the profound inequalities of our old analog world in the digital space. And for me, that's a tragedy and a massive missed opportunity when digital promises so much to those who have so little. So the first point I'd like you to take away from my address today is the need to put universal, meaningful connectivity at the very center of our global development agenda in this final decade of action in pursuit of our 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. So what's keeping people offline? Is it lack of infrastructure? Well, certainly that's part of the problem, particularly for remote communities and those living in geographically challenging areas. But the reality is that those people are relatively few. ITU numbers show that 95% of the world's people are now within reach of at least a 3G mobile signal, and 88% are covered by a 4G signal. So that brings me to my second core message, that our digital divides are multiple, and they're also multifaceted. Bringing life-changing, meaningful connectivity to the unserved and the poorly connected is about much more than just raw technology. It's also about finding ways to bring down the cost of connections and the cost of devices. It's about empowering communities with the digital skills they need to harness online services. It's about conceiving and developing devices and platforms adapted to real-world constraints. Constraints like lack of reliable power sources. Constraints like literacy and language issues and cultural norms that may limit the access of women and girls. And it's about implementing agile, best practice regulatory approaches, as exemplified in ITU's gold standard 5th generation regulation framework, our digital transformation wheel model, and our emphasis on the whole of government strategy to help governments to minimize the cost while maximizing the value of digital implementation. Dear South School delegates, if only connectivity that is affordable, accessible, and actionable will empower people to make material improvements to their own lives, then I believe that only collaboration on an unprecedented scale is going to succeed in putting that connectivity within reach of all. The UN Secretary General Guterres recognized this when he launched the UN's first ever global consultation on digital cooperation. That culminated in a bold, visionary report that emphasized the vital importance of working together. And that brings me to my third key message, which is that we need to move faster to develop better ways to collaborate and reach consensus around new forms of digital cooperation so that we can ensure that digital technologies are people-centric, that they're inclusive, and that they deliver meaningful opportunity for all. The UN SG's call to action was the impetus behind my decision to launch the Partner to Connect Digital Coalition last year at the UN General Assembly in New York. Partner to Connect is a concept that emerged from something my team and I observed early on in the pandemic. Through a platform that we set up to help operators and the global regulatory community to exchange advice and best practice at a time when global networks were coming under extraordinary and unprecedented strain. Our Reg for COVID platform showed something that was a bit unexpected. That was the outstanding ability of the digital sector to collaborate, to share, and to partner towards a common goal. This surprised many of us because we've always defined relationships in the digital space as somewhat adversarial, with regulators perhaps versus telcos, incumbents versus new market entrants, equipment and platform providers ruthlessly competing against one another. But the COVID crisis showed us that there's another way. It showed us what the digital sector really should have realized a long time ago, that having more people online actually benefits all of us, and that every single player in the digital space has much to gain from a planet in which everyone, everywhere, has ready and affordable access. Watching the cooperation across borders and across sectors during the height of the pandemic I realized that we could harness that untapped collaborative spirit and use it to drive global connectivity in areas that market forces just weren't reaching. And I'm delighted to report that once again, the digital sector has proven more than equal to the challenge. Through our Partner to Connect online pledging platform and roundtable sessions at the ITU's World Telecommunications Development Conference in June, ITU members and our P2C partners far exceeded even our most optimistic forecast in their willingness to step up, to make concrete commitments, and to collaborate on a scale that we never saw before. To date, Partner to Connect has notched up more than 500 pledges worth well over $28 billion, and the numbers are still rising. The variety of pledges is staggering, from commitments to scale up affordable access and build people's digital literacy, to reinforcing crucial connectivity infrastructure in remote and rural areas, to putting in place policies to try to close the many different digital divides. Taken together, these Partner to Connect commitments represent a major step towards making meaningful connectivity a reality for all. It's a great achievement and one I'm so proud to share with you today, because this is what humanity's increasingly interconnected future should look like. I'm now looking forward to actively working with our community to ensure that all those pledges deliver maximum impact, especially for those most in need. But I'll be doing that over the coming 4 years in a brand new role. Dear delegates, on September 29th at ITU's Plenipotentiary Conference in Bucharest, Romania, ITU member states chose me to be their next Secretary General. I don't need to tell you how proud I am to become the organization's first woman in our 157-year history to achieve this office, and how honored I am by the trust and the confidence ITU members have placed in me to lead the Union into this next exciting chapter. Digital cooperation will be the theme of that chapter, and Partner to Connect shows us what it can look like. Collectively and cooperatively, we've made a major leap forward that might just change the way that we interact with each other, with our industry, on a more profound level. We've proved that through partnership, and we really can change the world. As ITU Secretary General-elect, I look forward to doing everything in my power to realize our shared dream of universal citizenship, of a cohesive, inclusive online community, because ensuring that every person on the planet has a chance to engage, to interact, and to make their voice heard lies at the very heart of the UN vision of a safe, peaceful, and more equitable planet for all. Thank you.
Doreen, que no nos escucha, pero no importa.
Women, women in technology are very glad to have you here, especially when we have um, women in leading roles. Is great. She was very kind to fill this video, and I would like to acknowledge Lucas, and I would like to thank for everybody that did the captioning of this video. So I would like to thank Lucas for helping us with the video.